All right, we're back. Mike Whitlock, Executive Vice President of American Surety Company. We just talked a little bit about who he was and what he's been doing and why he enjoys bail. And he gave us a little rundown on what we've got with bail and why we have bail. So it is something that's constitutionally guaranteed. But let's talk a little bit, Mike. Let's talk a little bit about Colorado.
Okay.
And Colorado, for whatever reason, last session, in during the legislative session, there was a piece of legislation that was introduced that would have done away with private bail, commercial bail in the state, and it would have been totally run by the public sector. Fortunately, that piece of legislation was defeated. Doesn't mean that at some point in time, some point in the future, that this might not pop up again. Matter of fact, we know that the judicial profession, through their professional groups and so on, even have a task force on bail and what that means. And um, um, if I were a betting man, I'd say within the next 2 to 3 years, we probably would see the same kind of legislation that we had. But I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. It seems like bail all across the country is under some real stress because of a lot of different things.
Well, it is under stress all over the country. It seems like every state has one issue that it's dealing with respect to trying to reduce the amount of commercial bail being written and how people are being released from jail to from being released to a commercial bail agent to a guaranteed bail bond to releasing them through a public taxpayer-funded pretrial release agency or just by putting up a percentage of the bond in cash, which we call deposit bail. And, you know, that's something that us as an industry, private sector industry, have been dealing with. The Eighth Amendment to the Constitution provides for reasonable bail if someone is arrested. Okay. You can't really keep everybody in custody that is arrested. There's just simply no room at the jail to retain everybody in custody. So they have to be able to receive a reasonable bond for the charge, for the crime for which they've been charged, and there has to be a guarantee that they'll show up for trial. And by allowing them to bond out, it allows them to prepare for trial, meet with counsel, continue to work and earn a living and pay for their counsel, and show up to court. So there's justice, not only for the defendant, if that person happens to be innocent, which is certainly true in many cases, but also for the victims of those crimes and the community where these crimes are occurring. The bail agent guarantees that these people show up to court. As I explained earlier, what we're finding is that we have public entities, that whether it's the judges or the courts, the sheriffs, they would like to see, they would like to do our job for us to receive the revenue that bail can bring, but they don't really like the accountability that comes with guaranteeing a person appears in court.
Nice way to say it.
We charge premium for our bond. We assume a risk, and the risk is that will that defendant show up to court, and if he doesn't, are we prepared? We need to be prepared to pay the loss if we don't bring the defendant back within the statutory time period. And the courts, just with this alternative bond scheme, if you will, that they had proposed earlier, or I guess it would be last year now, they were talking about taking an amount equal to what the bail agent would typically make on a bail bond, and the court would, or pretrial services, the agency would retain right off the top 50% of that deposit. But if the defendant should fail to appear while released through pretrial release services doesn't have the authority to go pick this individual up. It's just simply a warrant for failure to appear that now Denver County or Jefferson County law enforcement fugitive squad would have to go and find this person. Well, in any large city across the country, the size of Denver, you're going to have 50,000, 50, 60,000 outstanding felony warrants at any given time. I mean, it's truly insurmountable and unmanageable. And law enforcement, they do the best they can with the staff that they have to get this done. But it's just simply an overwhelming task for them to try to look for these individuals. The bail agent is incentivized to look for this individual. You have bail agents across the country that are awake nights stressing about the fact that they have to find this individual. That's what they do. They live and breathe it, because for them, they avoid a loss by making sure this defendant gets picked up and returned to custody.
Right.
So we, across the country, and I don't know if it just seems to be about the money. And there's a saying out there, you know, if you have an issue, follow the money. And it seems to be it's the money that drives the public sector to try to get in, you know, to assume what's being handled perfectly well by the private sector. And for them, it's, well, we can take this deposit money in and we can build up our fiefdom of our little bureaucracy here, and we can all have jobs and so forth and all feel good about ourselves. But there's no accountability. I mean, the purpose of getting someone out of jail is to make sure they go back to court when required, every time required, not just one time or two times. But a defendant may have to appear in court 10, 15, 20 times before his case is resolved. And you have to have that person there every time. So it's not just we have them there once and we're done. We have to have them there multiple times. So you have to manage and keep track of these individuals. And the bail agent may have 250 people they're keeping track of at any given time. So there's a process to it. So it's frustrating seeing the courts just say we want to get in the bail bond business. And really they want to get into the revenue generating business again without accountability. They're not in the bail bond business in the true sense of the word. Mm-hmm. They're in the point of, give me your money, we'll let you out. And then we hope you show up to court.
Exactly.
We don't have that luxury. We're held to account when we don't produce. We have a simple phrase in our industry: you either produce the defendant or you pay the loss. It's pretty
cut and dry.
It's cut and dry in our industry. So we do have. We've tried in our industry to say, you know, there might be some low-level first-time offender or misdemeanant who might qualify for a release through OR because they've got ties to the community. They're absolutely almost a no-risk situation, and they might qualify. But more often than not, you have people that are repeat offenders that are regular in and out of court, in and out of jail, that don't deserve that type of courtesy, if you will, if they've been arrested, and they should be held to account, and they should show up to court. You have victims of crime out there that want to see justice, and I think that's all set aside by the courts who choose to say, well, we're not going to have someone guarantee your appearance in court. Just give us the money and just make sure you're here. We're going to take your word for it.
Well, there's been some horror stories around that where people, real criminals who have been released under pretrial and then gone and done it again.
They have.
And the accountability isn't there. And like you were saying, those public entities can't go out there and collect those people.
They can't collect them. They don't have the power to do it. And your bail agent is not going to tell you that someone they get out of jail will not commit another crime. We don't have control over an individual's personal actions.
Right.
If they commit another crime, they get charged, they go back to jail. But we make sure that no one can really make that guarantee, mind you. But we just guarantee that, again, we'll have him in court, and if he fails to appear, we'll produce him. And if we can't produce him, we'll pay the bond. And that bond, when we pay that bond, it's revenue to the state. So the state really doesn't lose per se, because we're either having them in court or they're going to generate revenue to the state because we're being penalized for failing to perform.
Right.
And we have a high rate of performance, that should be said, because we couldn't stay in business if we failed very often. But if every now and then someone gets away from us and we've got to pay the piper. And we don't like paying losses, so we do everything we can. Our bail agents do everything they can to make sure people get to court. It's their livelihood.
So are you saying that it's really the economic incentive on the part of the public sector because of the tough times or whatever the reason may have been, to go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity to use this money to maintain itself, as well as to then maybe have that person come back?
Well, I think it's absolutely the money to help continue to fund their agency, their government or state agency. But this, deposit bail in particular in other states, it's been going on for a number of years. Well, it's gone in and out of different recessions, if you will. It's I guess it's recession proof, because if you have no risk and you just have money coming in the door, I mean, as a business, that would be excellent.
I want to find a business
If
like
all
that.
if I just had to count the money, I didn't have any risk or any responsibilities. Just give me the money, and
Uh-huh.
the rest will take care of itself. So that would be a nice job to have. But we've, as an industry, we've tried to set, and we've seen laws passed in a couple of states that says if you're charged with a particular aggravated crime, that you don't have the right to bond out, just be released on your own recognizance or through a deposit bond, that you have to put up a 100% secured bail bond. If you've, domestic violence or DUI with accident or aggravated battery, attempted murder, what have you, that these are crimes that warrant an additional security to ensure that you appear in court. And we've seen that passed in several states, and I think that's appropriate, because the victims of these crimes want their day in court. And I think it's also a public safety issue, that if you have people that are walking around, Denver, and they don't have a bondsman that they have to check into with once a week. They don't have to worry about if I miss my court date, then I'm going to have someone knocking on my door at 3:00 in the morning to take me back to jail. They don't have anybody looking over their shoulder if they go to the state next door. A lot of times in these counties, they got their money. They just assume that you go someplace else, because now you're not. We got your money. You're someone else's problem.
If we see you, we'll see you.
Yeah, we'll see you when you see you. But frankly, go to New Mexico or California, Oregon. Just leave here, and that's fine by us. We've got your money, and we're okay with that. But that's not satisfactory to the victims. But you also have individuals that are regular criminal offenders, if you will, that in a deposit bond situation, for them, it just becomes a fixed cost. If they get arrested, they just know that they have to come up with 10 or 15% of the bond. They don't have to worry about mom or dad having to come down and co-sign for them, or calling their employer, or having someone to come stand up for them to guarantee the whole bond. They just say, "Here's my money, let me out," and then we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah.
So that's a bad public policy, in my opinion.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. We need to take another break. That's good. That's good stuff. Before we break, though, give your website to the company so people, because you have a tremendous blog there. People can read a lot about bail and learn more about it,
Sure.
and share that with everybody.
Sure. Our website is asc-usi.com or at americansuretycompany.com. And my blog is, I call it Where in the World is Mike, because I travel all over the country, and I like to report what's going on around the country.
Fantastic. All right, you're in the lobby with the Lobbying Pro. This is the WKRP radio and the NFN radio network. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.